we go with that. All right. Texas, Oklahoma State, Kansas, and West Virginia flexed. Houston got a big win. UCF with their first Big 12 victory. Much more to get into. In fact, there's former Baylor commit, and then he played, of course, at Auburn, Cam Martin, in the locker room. UCF got their first Big 12 victory in the win against Cincinnati. Congratulations to the Knights.
Yeah, I think Cincinnati's first Big 12 win is not coming in 2023. I think it's going to have to wait a little while. That's not a great team. UCF is just a team that can't finish. You know, that they can do some things, but they're not deep enough to beat Big 12 teams yet. You know, the other games in the Big 12 are a lot bigger. You know, of course, we were, privy to the Houston-Baylor game, which was two teams that are not very good going into overtime, but one team looked better than the other for the entire game, and there's implications for both coaches after that one, positive and negative. Texas held off Kansas State, which I want your opinion on this, guys. Okay, I'm not sure if I'm ready to say that Texas could go in and beat, say a Michigan or a Georgia or maybe even an Oregon. Like, they would probably hang with Oregon a little bit better, but like somebody like that. But I do think that they're in like the next phase of this is where you, like last year, they would have lost that game against Kansas State in probably the stupidest way possible.
Probably half of the last 10 years they lose that game.
But I'm just as Sark's personal evolution as the head coach at Texas in that program. Now they're winning those games. If they continue on this path, then it won't get to the point where some of those games get late and get tricky like Houston and Kansas State have lately. They'll just take care of it.
Do you want me to hit on those three games?
Let's hit on Texas and K-State first.
Yeah, there's a lot of games. Texas and K-State, what a great win for Texas. I mean, what a terrific win for Texas. Way too close for comfort there at the end, obviously. They looked like they were about to just, put a huge statement out to the world of, we're top 10, and you all realize we're top 10, but we're gonna go win the Big 12, and we're going to go roll through K-State, and we're going to, take care of them rather easily on our home field, and we're going to just keep on marching all the way back to Arlington. And, then Kansas State decided to buck up there and make it a bit more of a game, particularly in the second half, and that fourth quarter was something else to behold. And, obviously just not enough there for K-State at the end. The big call out down there at the goal line, Texas gets a huge stop. That defense has made big plays for them all year long, and on a day where, the offense had some moments, but it's certainly not what you're, accustomed to or what you're going to expect whenever Quinn Ewers does get back. Your defense has been able to, and your offense too, like these couple of weeks that you're starting quarterback, get the job done, right? And that's all you can ask for them to do when injuries arise. So, I thought Texas was really impressive in jumping out front. That could have been an absolute disaster for them, but they made the plays there at the end when they needed to stem off the upset bid. So tough, brutal loss for Kansas State. I think you're upset about the way you started that game, and then you're obviously upset. Probably some question the fourth down call and what you did there. Chris Kleiman said after the game that, he would have done basically the same thing, and he didn't regret the call in any way. So, they rolled the dice, and Texas made a play, and that's what it comes down to is, right, players making plays ultimately. Yep. And so Texas made the plays there at the end. They made the plays in the beginning to give themselves that bit of cushion and get out front and get that home crowd all rabid and roused. And, that was a huge win for the Longhorns, who now are sitting really pretty. I mean, they're going to have, obviously, some people that want to knock them off in these last opportunities, TCU, Iowa State, Texas Tech. But on paper, you're picking them in every single one of those games, and you're not really blinking twice about the fact that you're going to pick them in all three of those games.
No, because a loss would have lost then a tiebreaker, and you're a game behind,
right.
At least with that. Oklahoma eventually lost. We'll get to that in just a second. I still cannot fathom, as good as a coaching staff that K-State has with Chris Kleiman, the fourth down, you score, everyone thinks you're brilliant. I still cannot understand what in God's name they were doing when they got inside the 10 in overtime. I just don't get that. The play with Howard, he got stopped. Then he tried to do like a Tim Tebow pass. It should have been intercepted. I don't get what they did. And on one of the plays, how do you take your running back, Giddens, split him all the way out to the side, and try to run a quarterback draw? I know Howard's pretty big and all that, but you're losing the option of the defense having to worry about one or the other or a lead back to pound the inside. But Texas made the plays. They're now in really good shape.
Yeah, I don't even think the fourth down call, of course, it's hard to tell because the fourth down call was just Texas's defensive line eating their
mauled
lunch.
them
So
up, yeah.
I have no idea if that was a good call or a bad call because it might have been the perfect call had 3 interior linemen not gotten swallowed whole by dudes wearing burnt orange and white. But they the 3 plays before that were not Colin Klein's best work.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think
a quarterback draw, you go in, they've done that many times, but I just thought that they got kind of a little bit either a little bit too fancy or what, but they obviously Texas's defense had a lot to do with that too.
Yeah, Texas made an incredible play. I mean, they totally destroyed that play from the outset. I would have gone for the field goal. I would have kept the game going because I feel like you had momentum.
In that case, I would have too.
Yeah, because, and I understand Houston kicking it in Waco the way they were, but Baylor had flipped the momentum. Like they had gotten all the momentum. They had scored a tie at the end. They'd scored first in overtime. And then you're Houston and you're like, well, this defense have really stopped us. Like we get the score. Let's just go for 2. And especially knowing the play that they felt really good about running and that worked to perfection. But when you're K-State and you're the one that had come roaring back and you're the road team, I get the idea of going ahead and going for it there, but I would have kicked the field goal and kept that game going. That's just me. And I'm not saying that because it didn't work, but that's just me in general. I know if it had worked, we'd all be praising Kleiman for the, having the balls to go for it there. But I just think in that situation, it would have been smarter, even though on the road, to just make Texas keep playing. They just fumbled a couple of times late in that game to allow you to have the opportunity. You were able to kick the field goal there at the end. You're able to get this game into extras. So why not keep playing? Why cut yourself short and feel like you have to do or die?
Your offense was moving the ball.
Yeah, and so I just didn't get I didn't feel like they had to go for it all right there, and so that was puzzling.
Stopped them
you also
on the previous drive.
Right, yeah, exactly.
If the kicker would have missed another field goal and still gone into overtime, which he did, he made the nice one, the long one, but he missed that other one, and they had the extra point issue. I'm not sure if that came into play, but Kleiman said he would do it all over again. So Texas moves on, almost advance. Kansas State now needs to take care of their business. They host Baylor this weekend. Now, Oklahoma State and OU and Bedlam. It was a great game. Oklahoma State kind of dictated the tempo, but Oklahoma hung around. It looked like maybe at the end, and yet they just could not get the job done. There's a tweet, and then Craig and Paul, you guys discuss it, about Oklahoma and their coaching staffs with Stoops and Riley. Back-to-back losses in a season at Oklahoma. Stoops 3 times in 18 years. He had the great run. Lincoln Riley 1 time in his 5 years. Venables has now had back-to-back losses 4 times in 2 years. Now, I know the first year was a year of transition with a lot of mess with the roster, but that's Brian Fisher with that note about OU with back-to-back losses, Kansas and now Oklahoma State.
Yeah, Brett, to defend Brent Venables, Bob Stoops and Lincoln Riley never had to deal with what he had to deal with roster-wise a year ago.
I mentioned that on yesterday.
Yeah. So, that's a totally different thing. So, but it is interesting to see that. And, of course, it's a new era of college football. There's going to be I think Oklahoma's not going to be the only team that has these, ridiculous stats like that you're going to see pop up over the next few years because everything is changing and changing rapidly. Oklahoma, to me, it felt towards the end of that game that Oklahoma State just kind of had a little bit of destiny on their side on that one, and that they just did everything right down the stretch that it took to win the game. But a very evenly matched game, and Mike Gundy has rattled off 5 in a row after falling to 2-2, and I don't think that anybody saw that coming. But Ari Temkin, 5 months ago.
Did he now?
Yeah, well, he's the only one who picked him to win the Big 12. He's the vote.
Yeah, good for him.
Didn't know that, but yeah, nice call on his part. And what an amazing victory for Oklahoma State. I mean, you couldn't draw it up any better. Last Bedlam in Stillwater, get you into the top 25, get you to 7-2 now and 5-1, where you're positioned terrifically to be in the Big 12 championship game if you just handle your business moving forward. And now you got the head-to-head over Oklahoma. I mean, you're right there in the driver's seat and controlling your own destiny and, setting up for what is likely to be a matchup against Texas at this point. We'll see how these next 3 weekends go. I know that there's some that are eyeing that spread in Orlando this weekend. And, UCF, not necessarily a team where their record says exactly who they are because of the way that they've lost games. So that is one where if you're Mike Gundy and company, I do think you need to be be mindful and be careful heading into the bounce house. But that's an awesome win for them. And, Oklahoma, I know there's the non-pass interference call late, and there's different things that you could point to. But ultimately, Oklahoma State's offense showed up, and it wasn't just the Ollie Gordon show. It was still Ollie Gordon. I mean, what an amazing run he's on, right? I mean, this guy is just week after week putting up insane numbers and just grinding away, and they did everything they could on Oklahoma's side to try and take him away, but Alan Bowman had his best game of the year. He didn't have a bunch of touchdowns, so it won't show up in like the awards list or whatnot, but he was super efficient, threw for a lot of yards, and just commanded the game really well. I also thought Rashad Owens had a huge game on the receiving side of things for Oklahoma State. So it wasn't just Ollie Gordon. Alan Bowman was great. Rashad Owens was great. Other players made plays. Defense stepped up. And so, they're a really good team, and they had an awesome win on Saturday that I know is going to be the talk of that state for a very long time as they go their separate ways. And who knows when we'll see Bedlam again. But that is an all-timer way to end this series for right now. A bitter pill to swallow for Oklahoma fans for sure. But there's Oklahoma State now in the top 25. We've been wondering who's going to work their way into there eventually. And now you've got them and Kansas and is there one other team maybe that's there in the back end of the top 25?
There's the top 25. You have Oklahoma.
Okay, it was Oklahoma.
KU. Yeah. Kansas State popped out. Oklahoma State moves up. And then, of course, you have Texas right where they've been at number 7.
Yeah, I was thinking of Oklahoma being there. Yeah, my mistake. So, great win for Gundy and the Cowboys.
But Kansas recently was in, of course, until they lost, and so they're just hanging around. Now, Oklahoma State's goalpost. Brett McMurphy. This is Brett. He is at the stadium, Stillwater, and they just cracked the goalpost off, just like a pretzel. And there he is standing there with just one piece of the goalpost. The other is in some body of water in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
It's probably in not a pretty one either. But
they have beautiful lakes
at
in
Paul
Oklahoma.
Catalina on Twitter.
At Paul Catalina.
It's a great win for him. Great win for him.
Some beautiful fishing lakes at Oklahoma.
Yeah, the best one's on the border of Texas. So go figure.
There's some better parts than they're giving credit for. I'm not saying it's like Shangri-La by any means, but it ain't all bad up there.
Yeah,
I will set foot in Tulsa and Oklahoma City again. If I never go to any other part of it, I'm fine.
Okay. All right, so Oklahoma State.
Our YouTube viewership in Oklahoma just dropped off a cliff. I don't know what happened there.
Wet blanket, normally it's me, at Paul Catalina. So
Bring it.
The biggest news of the weekend in college football